There's some big improvements coming. Isn't there more tutorials coming to the portal as well?
Yeah, I mean, we have JP crushing out actually the curriculum, and then tutorials. We have Craig up there. We're hiring another document writer. So lots of things coming. Like one of our big things is making sure that we have as much documentation as we possibly can, so that we can be ready for all of the developers. I mean, we're growing at 5% week over week as far as developers coming in the space, but we need to do better. We need, it's fun to have a few thousand, but really, tens of thousands, 100,000 developers is really what our goal is. And only way you can do that is to scale appropriately and have better documentation.
We had also an incredible event on Monday, the Algorand. That was phenomenal. And we have a guest here, Srina Kurani. She was speaking at Algorand, and she's running for Congress. Very, very bright person, and glad that she's able to join the call today.
Hey everyone, it's Srina Kurani. It's so great to be here with all of you. I had a chance to hop on and listen last Sunday, yeah, it's really, really great to be here.
Hey Srina, how you doing? Welcome. Can you tell us a bit about your platform and what you're running for?
Yeah, of course, happy to. So I am running for Congress in California's 41st Congressional District. It's in Southern California, sort of nestled between Orange County and San Diego and what's called the Inland Empire in Riverside County. And my background, I'm a mechanical engineer. So I actually had started a couple of companies, mostly in the sustainability space. I've been, helping a lot of industry in the region transition from fossil fuels and non-renewable energy sources. And I've mostly really been working in clean technology. After selling the last company, started investing in sustainability and in healthcare and in education. And I think those are big parts of my platform. And I've also been building Republic, which is a financial technology company that has been in the crypto space for quite a while. So we launched a profit sharing token back in 2020, and I've been very, very involved with the Securities and Exchange Commission and with FINRA and trying to navigate all of the regulations around what it means to be a security token. And through a lot of that work, realized that our Congress isn't necessarily competent when it comes to understanding evolving technology, but also evolving business models and ways that we can get more people engaged. And so we're had a real exciting opportunity at that Algorand in Austin to work and partner with Algorand, especially because I think there's a lot of values alignment, right, when it comes to sustainability, of course, which is a core and a big driving part of what I'm doing, but also when it comes to opening things up and actually being able to have an honest discussion around what we need and the role that regulation and legislation can play in actually allowing innovation to continue to thrive as opposed to stifling it, right? And so I think we're at a really, really exciting time right now with crypto, with Web3, and we're really, really excited to partner with Algorand in terms of how we can have the future of innovation also be not a negative impact on the environment.
That's
amazing to hear. Yeah.
Two quick questions. One, maybe you could just share a little bit about some of the most exciting products or companies that were founded through Republic, or share some statistics. And two, is there going to be any news maybe in the future related to Republic and Algorand?
Yeah, of course. So I have been really, really excited to work with, building out the future of Republic because of the mission. I think that's one of my favorite parts of a Republic is that everyone who's working there has this underlying notion of opening up access to capital, right? You talk about like democratizing access to investing, but also access to capital and really working with legislators to find ways to get there. And so how Republic works is it's effectively an investment platform. Republic does all the diligence and effectively brings companies on that people can now invest in. And we started very, very early actually with crypto projects as well. And so back when, ICOs were this really scary thing to be able to participate in, especially as an American. Not saying that the regulation made it easier, but we at least, found legal and compliant ways so that people can actually participate, and Americans in particular would be able to participate. I think a big part of it is honestly the regulatory framework. And the other big part of Republic's mission is helping underrepresented entrepreneurs get access to capital. So we've had a chance to facilitate over $500 million across the country, and really with a focus on helping communities solve problems for themselves, right? How can we have it so that it's not major investors who are coming in that have vested interest and are honestly just caring about the profit, as opposed to actually helping the company or whatever the organization might be, actually helping it succeed. And so I think having that vested interest in your own community, having that ownership, and that ability to truly help the businesses that you care about that are pushing forward in the vision that you want for the world, and having it so that when the business wins, you wins, right? And I think that's one of the fundamental aspects of the future of Web3 when people talk about it being grassroots and participatory and inclusive. I think that's a really big part of honestly how Republic operates as well. So really, really thrilled to have been a part of that journey, but I am now working full-time on my campaign. So of course, still very involved in making sure that we're pushing things in the right direction. But being a candidate is a full-time job. So we're coming up on the election now. Just I think 42 days or so, our voters in California all receive a mail-in ballot. And so voters will start receiving their ballots very, very soon. So we're right in the thick of things for the election right now.
I think that's awesome. I didn't realize we had a Republic connection and what your position was there. Our company, NADA and City Funds, raised $3 million on there. I think working with Jesse Stein and Republic Realm. And there's a couple of other Algorand projects on there, Quantum RE. And I thought it was very telling when it was time for Republic to push out their own, finance. They used Algorand themselves, even though some of the other crypto projects are not Algorand related. So clearly folks had access to all of the other projects and information on blockchain, but when it came time to use it yourselves, like you used Algorand, which I thought was fantastic. Did that impact your time there? Did that impact you, as far as your policies go and I don't know, positions on cryptocurrency in general, or did you have previous experience outside of Republic?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think a lot of what we're seeing in the space right now is honestly a big part of my learning, right, with Republic, but also prior to Republic, I was advising, a stablecoin company, and that was like my first sort of entry into the space, really coming from how can we help people across the world who are unbanked, who don't have access to financial services, just that the true financial access piece was sort of my first intro into crypto. And then with my work with Republic, realizing that we can actually work with regulators, but it is so painfully slow. And to a certain extent, I believe that's by design, right? We need a stable government in order to make sure that we can continue to do everything else, but that doesn't mean that government should be stifling innovation. And so I think, especially as a candidate, being able to incorporate into my platform to say, how can we have more connections from Web3 to the real world, right? How can we help educate the larger American population? How can we bring more people into this and really bridge that gap between politics and crypto? And I think that's a piece that I think it can be very, very challenging, especially as someone who's running as a Democrat, right? How, when you're one of the first to even talk about it, you're always going to sort of come across challenges. And so whether it's talking about, campaign compliance or communicating, a big perception, I think, is still that, Web3 and crypto are bad for the environment. And so being able to communicate in simple terms that, these transactions are like the equivalent of a couple Google searches, right? So everything we do has a footprint, but how do we make sure we're doing it in a way that is more efficient, that continues to sort of push the envelope in terms of security and bringing more and more people into the fold? But, I think in particular with my platform, the environment versus Web3 has been a little more challenging to help people understand that not everything is Bitcoin, right? Not everything is proof of work. Like we have more efficient consensus mechanisms, and there are a lot of platforms that really care about that, and Algorand is one of them.
Nice. Locally there in Southern California, it's not necessarily known as a crypto hub, kind of like Miami or Austin or even Northern California. But there's a lot of entertainment companies there that are primed for, and you've seen some of them come on board now, like gaming companies, music industry, that type of stuff. Is there anything you can do locally to kind of draw more of those businesses to feel like they're comfortable, having a crypto-based company, or at least one that like incorporates crypto in California?
Yeah, I think one of the things that I think has actually been really good, I mean, a lot of our constituents, so as I mentioned, I'm based in Riverside County, so it's east of LA and north of San Diego. And a lot of the sort of demographics here, especially the voting demographic, tends to skew a little bit older, right? And so when you talk about communicating about new types of technology, I think one of the best things that happened in the region especially was the arena, right, getting renamed. And so a lot of people, we did an NFT drop just to start that conversation, because that's something that a lot of people have been talking about. And people are like, wait, what's an NFT? Oh wait, it's something to do with crypto, right? There's that arena in downtown LA, it's like crypto something, right? So it really just starting to have people even get familiar with the terminology and the language and the concepts. And it's been really, really fun, to be honest, with a lot of even mainstream publications reaching out and saying, what are you doing? Can you explain this to us? You're a Democrat running on a pro-crypto platform. Can you talk to us about what that even means? And so it's been a really great educational opportunity, especially for our campaign. But when we talk about engaging, especially the Southern California area, I think we're starting from a place of even just explaining what it is, right? And then we can start taking those steps forward in terms of how can you use this? What are the applications? How can this benefit your company? How can this benefit, what you're trying to do in engaging more people? But I think we're still at the place of what is it? And having to explain, what the future of a more inclusive internet can be, right? And how do we fundamentally change the model from being a consumer to being an owner effectively, right? And so I think that's something that's really exciting, but we are still very, very much at the stage of what is it, and having to really explain, what this movement even is.
Yeah, I just wanted to chime in because I met Shrina at South by Southwest. It was really great hearing about what you're doing and you're running and selling NFTs. I'm actually in LA now for NFT LA, and yeah, I noticed that also going out and conversing to people about crypto and NFTs. A lot of people, I mean, younger demographics, they don't quite understand what NFTs are at all. Like they just don't get it, and they're like, some think of crypto as a super risky investment, which it can be. But yeah, we're just all super early, and I just wanted to add on with that.
Yeah, I completely agree. But I think that's a real opportunity, right? Is that there's been, a larger sentiment around what is crypto? Is it scammy? Is it scary? Is it here to stay? Is it just a trend? What is all this hype? And I think we can sort of cut through that noise a little bit. I think that's what I'm really excited about with the campaign, is to come at it from this regulatory side and come at it from a legislative side and say, here's this thing, politics, which people think is like really boring and not very fun. And then there's this thing, crypto, which people are like, there's a lot of hype around this, even if I don't understand what it is. And how can we bridge that, right? How can we bring more people in to get more engaged civically and have their voices heard and really push for more representation, and do it in a way that we can really look to the future and say, what are the future innovation opportunities? How can we actually change how the world around us works in partnership with technology and, our governance structures? So I think there is a real opportunity here. I'm not saying it's easy and that people are immediately on board or they understand exactly what's going on, but I think it is a really, really amazing opportunity to be able to start building that bridge and bring more people on board.
one thing that comes to mind for me is your platform. Your personal interest seems to really be focused on helping people, making it easier for people to live productive lives and have access to what they need to survive. And Chris, I think you kind of come from the same perspective. You look at blockchain as kind of an equalizing force, and one of the big themes, one of the phrases that I heard mentioned many times during Reach Summit was that blockchain lowers the cost of verification. And Chris, I'm wondering if you could just share a little bit of your perspective with us, and what that means to an everyday person. How does lowering the cost of verification help people?
Yeah, so I mean, I always tell people that they should read the research paper, Some Simple Economics of Blockchain, because it talks about this in great detail. That right now, pretty much anything that you do, like if you have to actually, there's a possibility of going to court, it's extreme high amounts of verification, because that means that you have to actually prove things. You have to, there's contracts involved. There's all of this stuff. But when blockchain comes in, and it gives the opportunity to remove all of that, because the whole, you've heard this many times, code is law, meaning that the code itself is very transparent. You know exactly what's happening, and that the code itself can be self-sovereign, meaning that it can be tied to transactions itself. It really creates entire new industries. Not only does it actually make the ROI of some industries better, but entire new industries that never were able to exist before. I mean, I think this is actually a good segue to Margaret being up here with Dequincy. The stuff that they're doing would not be possible without blockchain. And I mean, Margaret, you want to talk a little bit about what Dequincy is and exactly why it's now possible with blockchain?
Sure. Thanks for the intro. And also just Shrina, it's always such a pleasure to hear you speak. I'm so excited about what you're doing. And as another Southern Californian, I'm rooting for you. I'm out of your district, but I would vote for you. So Dequincy, what makes this exciting, and, as just one more use case to add to the pile of how blockchain makes things more efficient. We come from the land of music sync licensing, which is this kind of niche-y, in the grand scheme of music, it's like this little known, channel where a few people have access to a lot of opportunity because of how entrenched it is, and because of how difficult it is from a administrative perspective, from a legal perspective, to execute these deals. So for us, I mean, to really oversimplify it, blockchain allows us to execute these really complex transactions with, multiple stakeholders instantaneously. And then the really exciting thing to me is the payment structure. So with so many things in terms of royalties and just in the music industry more broadly, people wait months and sometimes even years to get paid because of how hard it is to track down rights holders and how complex it is to even figure out who owns what rights. But, our hope is that it makes it a lot easier now, and this is something that, Chris was talking about. We were talking about the composable royalties routing. It makes it really easy for people to get paid immediately. And so when I think about explaining the power of blockchain to people, I think about trying to use a real world example of how a normal person, an artist, can make a living off of their work. And that's self-sovereign ownership in that, in that particular example. So for me, that's what I'm really excited about. It's giving more people kind of the keys to their own kingdom, and, taking out those entrenched interests in the middle. But yeah, so that's a little bit about what we're doing. But I mean, more broadly, kind of what blockchain's doing.
Hey, Margaret, could you explain what the metaverse really is?
The metaverse is existence. And that's all I'll say. No.
You're one of my favorite people. But thank you for sharing an inside joke with all of the people listening.
I want everyone to noodle on that one, though, because now I've taken to, when people talk about the metaverse, I'm like, well, right now we're in the meat layer of the metaverse. So you gotta, what are you talking about when you say the metaverse? But also, I mean, there is a little bit of like, I have a legal angle here too, which is that our Smart Sync license covers metaverse uses. And so we were having this whole conversation about, okay, well, what constitutes a metaverse use? Like, is Twitter Spaces a metaverse use? Like one of our investors, Kimball, was like, oh, I want to license a song to use on a Twitter Spaces. And I was like, I don't really think you need to do it through us. And Keely was like, well, technically this could be the metaverse. And I was like, well, everything's the metaverse. So, but yeah, a lot of fun.
Thank you, Margaret.
Thank you, guys. And sorry, I'm walking my dog. It's beautiful, by the way. So if anyone's coming to NFT LA, I'm in San Diego right now, but the weather's about the same, 100 miles north. It is so nice right now. I am walking my dog, having a beautiful Sunday. I hope everyone else is having a nice day too.
That sounds amazing.
So I'm not coming to NFT LA, but I am most likely going to be down at Bitcoin 2022 in Miami.
Yep.
Is that the 7th? When is that?
I think I'm going to go down the 6th.
We're throwing a party on the 7th, so everyone come hang.
Well,
would love to be there.
I put up that white paper that Chris mentioned, Simple Economics of Blockchain. And also, I put a link to Shrina's NFT collection. If you guys didn't see that, she's minted NFTs on Algorand. And you do need KYC due to the campaign finance laws, but you guys know how to use Algorand. It's not that tough to make a new wallet. So I'd encourage you to check that out. And
I did want to quickly add in, if anyone is in Southern California, so Margaret, Chris, or anyone else who's in the area, would love to meet up in person. So if anyone's in the area, feel free to just DM me. And yeah, would be more than happy to chat with folks. And then just a last little plug, because we are in the swing of election things. It's our last deadline before the election is at the end of this month. And unfortunately, a big part of how campaigns work is the person who has the most funding is the one that gets even more funding. And we're going up, I don't think I shared, I'm going up against a 30-year incumbent who's like top 15 most corrupt members of Congress. And so if there's anything that anyone would be able to support with before the end of the month, that will go a really, really long way for us being able to actually make it to Congress. So really, really appreciate all of you being on here.
I thought you had that crypto money now.
I wish.
Damn. Thanks so much, Shrina, for telling us about your platform. Really appreciate that.
Thank you, Shrina. Thank you so much. We have Albify, like that has been the subject, like about how to deal with the governance. How are you? Who is talking actually?
It's John.
Albify.
Hey everyone.
Hi, John. How are you doing?
Good. How's everyone doing?
John, how are you doing?
Doing well.
Stellar, my friend.
So tell us about these governance vaults, and like, when did you guys decide that you were gonna do this?
So we were building the lending market and knew that Algorand governance was going to sort of debut. So we were thinking about it at that time, but I think the specification for interacting with governance was still, like from a technical side, was still early stage. So we deferred building that until recently. So we didn't have it in for Q1, and then we got quite busy with the AMM and the nano swap, but we started building out the concept then. And so now we're going to have it live for the third governance period, where users will be able to deposit their algos into what we're calling a vault, but essentially it's an account that is specific to the user that they control through the Algify protocol, and they'll be able to supply algos, commit those algos, and then vote with them. And the benefit is, these are all things that you can do with governance, but by doing it through the Algify vault, you can borrow stable USDC, even algos against your vaulted algos. So you have the optionality of participating in our lending protocol while also earning your governance APR.
Has there been any discussion with Algorand, with the foundation, related to how this impacts the expert governor program?
So, yeah, we're in discussions with the foundation. We haven't dug into that item. I think the one piece that we're working with them on is the fact that there's a plan to transition over to on-chain governance, where the algos will actually be deposited in a smart contract that the foundation is maintaining. So we're kind of focused more on that piece, but as the XGov program gets fleshed out, we'll definitely make sure that we keep our protocol consistent with that. So, but we haven't had that exact discussion yet.
It'd be interesting to understand how the XGov program, how your vested, I'm not sure what the right term is here, but your voting power is increased for, I believe, is it every year that you're in the XGov program? And I'm wondering if that starts at the beginning of this next governance period. And then how would that carry over if you're moving your algo into a smart contract?
That's a good question, actually. I'm not sure if the X governance thing is starting immediately in governance period 3. Does anyone know?
Hi, Fred. How are you doing? Fred, please.
Hi, Bilal. How are you doing?
Awesome. Awesome.
Fantastic.
Trying to understand everything that is going on with how the whole thing works with Algofy. So it's cool. We have John, we have you.
Fantastic.
Please.
I actually have a very quick question for John, if maybe he can tackle a little bit later, if he so feels inclined. And John, this is a question that I have myself, but it's a question that has been resonating a lot on our Reddit community. And if you can touch on the subject, is regarding the security of the vault. If you can touch basically, kind of like a dumped down version for us mere mortals of how the smart contract works, in the sense that if there are vulnerability points, and of course, you guys have built the code, have audited, so there shouldn't be any vulnerabilities, but basically, where do the vulnerabilities live? Meaning in the sense that, we're most likely going to have a large TVL of governance migrating to Algofy. And of course, the community is always a little bit scared moving forward with new technologies that can basically have so much of the TVL. So I was just wondering if maybe you can tell us a little bit more about the security structure of the vault for governance. Thanks.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for the question, Fred. So the vault is actually, all things equal, should be a bit safer than the regular markets, because the way that the vault works compared to the algo market is you're not supplying your algos into some global pool where those algos can be borrowed, just like in the main algo market. In fact, in the vault, you are not able to borrow those algos. And the reason we're doing that is, in governance, if your algo balance dips below your commitment amount, you are now ineligible for rewards. So we are enforcing that those algos cannot be borrowed. The only thing that can happen is those algos can be supplied, they can be removed. And the third piece is, since you can borrow against those vaulted algos, they can be seized by a liquidator. So I think because there's no borrowing, it's actually quite a bit safer. The one piece to be mindful of is, if you're going to borrow, make sure that you manage your collateral and don't borrow too much, because if algos are to sell off a lot, you could be liquidated, and a liquidation event could render you ineligible if enough algos are pulled from your vault. Another way to mitigate this is you can supply some amount of algos to your vault, but don't commit all of those algos. So if you leave a buffer, sure, you're not earning your governance APR on that, but if you get liquidated and you don't get liquidated to bring you below your commitment amount, you'll still earn the governance APR. So those are a couple areas of risk and a couple recommendations. Outside of that, the code has been audited by professionals, and the report's going live next week. The whole team has rigorously audited the code internally. We all do individual audits, and then we have a lot of team auditing. And we've also put the code in front of members of the community at Algorand Inc. And otherwise to get their opinions. And so far, there have been no issues discovered.
Fantastic. And if you can ask a very quick follow-up question, because you just mentioned about being mindful of your liquidation percentages and borrow limits and whatnot. Inside the vault structure on the Albify app, are there going to be any sort of analytics that will guide us, similarly to what you already have for the vanilla borrow section? If any other analytics that can help us keep track of the vault?
Yeah, absolutely. So there will be a separate page for the vault, and that's going to have analytics that are specific to the governance. So it'll say things like, are you eligible? How large is your vault? How much of that vault did you commit? Did you vote? Things around that. But if you go to the lending page, after you supply to your vault, you'll see that your max borrow has increased by the amount of algos that you've supplied to your vault. And you'll also see in the supply section, we're calling them V algos as a way to distinguish between regular algos, but they function practically the same in terms of borrowing against them. The price, is the same. It's just the algo price, and you can borrow against those. So you'll notice that your borrowing power increases, and if you were already borrowing, your borrow utilization will decrease. So all of the analytics are still used.
And also, Fred, I want to add that I made a bunch of tutorial videos for how to use the vault, which I need to go make public on YouTube, but those should be able to drop whenever. So that'll help you out as well.
Yeah, I added those to the tutorial, to our docs actually yesterday. So we can go ahead and make those public, but those videos are really good. And, Ibu kind of walks through and shows you how to use the product.
Yeah. Hey, John. Yeah. Is every vault a different smart contract, or is it a pool?
So each vault is actually an Algorand account. So the way that we've gotten it to work is in our first, in the lending market, we actually needed to invoke the concept of the storage account, where each user that's in our protocol, we actually create an account for them, which they fund, and we rekey that account to a manager application. By rekeying this account, the manager application can now control it. And over time, as new functionality has become available with the contracts, the ability to send inter-application calls, more functionality has been sort of bestowed to this storage account. So we're using the storage account as the vault as well, and you can basically store algos here. So it's like a personal market that we've been able to create around the storage account concept that already existed.
Cool. Thanks, John.
Yeah, no worries.
One thing I find cool about this system is that you can borrow a variety of assets. So you could actually borrow algo against your supply and hedge your governance position, with a short, because you're committing for 3 months, and it's kind of it's a safe play. But I'm wondering, people who here remembers governance option B from governance period 1, where there was going to be the slashing? Couldn't a protocol like Algofy simply build that functionality into their protocol as an option? So you can have the 8% slashing in a specific environment, but also integrate some type of higher yield super staking. Just instead of having it be applicable to all of Algorand governance, you could just do it on one platform and give people that option.
I think that definitely could get added, some kind of structure. I envision that a lot of protocols, including where we have some ideas, are going to get created that leverage this unique aspect of Algorand, which is governance and the governance APR. I think there's a lot of interesting structured yield products that can be created that use these rewards. So yeah, creating a super staking, a slashing mechanism. So it's a higher risk, higher reward environment to deploy your liquidity into. I definitely think we're going to see things like that come over the next year. But our goal with the vault was to create something super vanilla, super lightweight, something that we think is very, very safe, so people can do the very basic thing of earn their governance rewards while also taking advantage of the leverage that you can get through Albify. So yeah, to your point, one thing that I'm really interested in is I think there's going to be some cool algo market dynamics where, for people that are supplying algos to the main algo market, I think people are going to supply their algos to the vault and then borrow algos against, because there's no liquidation risk. So we'll see and then resupply those into the vault to increase their governance rewards. And we'll see the borrow interest rate on the algo market increase. So that'll actually start to trade probably roughly around the governance APR. So people that are in the algo market right now will probably be able to get a decent interest rate on supplying without having to commit for 3 months, which some people may not want to do.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
Hey,
Chris,
John,
I heard. Yeah, go
just a
ahead.
second. If you want to know how the new governance is going to work, just let me know.
Yeah, definitely.
That's actually what I was about to bring up. Chris, I heard that you at Reach were rebuilding governance. So John, how do you feel about maybe having to retool or rebuild your vaults in 3 months or so?
Oh, I think, it's a challenge that we're up to, and I think that there's definitely stuff that Foundation can do to improve their governance process. So I think it makes sense. I was recently provided the new spec for governance, so I'm spending the early part of this week to get through that. But is that the case that essentially the primary developers on the governance will be Reach?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I guess we should probably touch base this week and see if we can work together.
Right on. Yeah, we'll
Seems
talk.
like a big deal. Good job, Chris, for securing that contract.
Yeah, that's nice.
And Chris is probably going to share a little bit more, right?
Come on, Chris.
Yeah,
How'd the deal come about?
Come on.
Honestly,
Alpha time.
it's kind of boring. It's just like I said, I don't know how much I'm actually supposed to talk about it yet, but yeah, we are involved with rewriting how governance works, if it's accepted, of course.
Yeah, it doesn't sound boring at all. But anyway, yeah. John, can I I'm not a developer. I'm not too technical. To dump it down even better. Can you explain? I just have a quick question. Does it make it harder for an attacker, the fact that you divide, each user has its own vault? Is it safer in a way because an attacker would have to attack account by account?
I think it would make it more arduous for them because they would have to, but I think if an exploit were found on one account, it could probably scale to at least some other subpopulation of accounts. But the fact that the division of the accounts makes the governance process a lot safer. The fact that only the user can do things with their vault, no algos can be borrowed, only liquidation is the risk. I think it makes the idea of losing your governance rewards very much on the user. So that's the safety. But in terms of an exploit, that's something where oftentimes these can be sort of horizontally scaled or vertically. I don't know if I'm using the right word, but you can find one that works. You could probably repeat it for the others.
Thank you.
Any plans to offer escrow or lockup services for ASAs? So one thing that we've been iterating on in the background, we're not sure if we're going to go forward with this, but we've been writing the contracts because we have some people are actually interviewing right now with us, and one thing we've been having them look at is IDOs. And so an IDO contract with vesting and lockup contracts has been something that we've been exploring. And it's actually not too bad to write those. So I think one day we might have that, this idea of a lockup contract for ASAs in the context of a sale is going to happen. But I think there are other teams that are building specifically lockup contracts or ASAs. I think the guys at Tiny Charts are working on a product like this. Yeah, I think they've got Tiny Safe coming up, and there was another one called Tiny Lock, not associated with them, I think, that was working on something like that.
Gotcha. But yeah,
Tiny Lock's been around. It's just one guy though, I think. So he doesn't have everything it's not too organized, but it is a token locking system, like a time-gated token locking.
It's very important to have too, especially for launch pads, because I believe strongly that when people are going to participate in a sale, like the actual investors, they want to see that cryptographically on chain there is, some sense of tokens being locked up, because your public sale might be for, 5% of the network. The other 95%, that's a huge amount of tokens that, could be dumped on exchanges. And we've seen a lot of rug pulls like that happen so far. So I think having these lockup contracts will be huge for the ecosystem.
Yeah, like these 4-month vesting programs.
Yeah, well, it's funny, like when you run, so like for us, when you run a company and you sign a lot of documents and contracts, the vesting tends to be the typical 3-4 year vesting. I imagine the on-chain vesting will be lower to start, but as more confidence is built in the process, and as Algorand as an ecosystem gets more and more de-risked, I think we'll see those numbers increase. But like today, 4-month vesting is better than no guarantee of any vesting. So, I think you got to start somewhere and then take steps into lengthening that.
I think you're raising an amazing point, because many projects launch the ASAs and no vesting on first investors, and many people, I think, have been suffering from that lack of structure on many tokenomics. So thank you. Can you tell us more
100%.
about it?
Actually, sorry, Bill. I just want to jump on that because I had a builder hit me up the other day, and they wanted to add freeze and clawback to their token that had already been created. And as far as I know, you can't do that. And I said, you guys are probably just going to have to make a new token if you want to do that. And he's like, no, we're too far along in the process to change it. And, that's why we need something like a launchpad to make it way simpler and more straightforward when you're putting in the specificities of what the token has to be.
Yeah, that's a really good point. John, can you tell us more about it? Like just kind of safe practice and about ASAs?
True. So when you launch an ASA, there's basically 4 accounts that you set. There's the manager, the freeze, the clawback, and the reserve. And so the manager is the account that can later make updates to just the 3 other accounts. Like you can't change the supply number after you launch, as far as I know, but you can update these accounts. But those accounts need to be set. So for example, if you launch with just a reserve, but not a freeze and a clawback, those are like empty, you can't actually add. The only thing that you can do is change the accounts, as far as I know, from one to another. So yes, once you've launched without freeze or clawback, you can't really add, but philosophically, it kind of depends what you're doing with these tokens, but I don't really believe in like clawback, and in a lot of cases freeze as well, just because of the rug pull risks that they institute. I think behavior like this can be instituted at the smart contract level. That said, the fact that you can do it at the ASA level does make life a lot easier for the developers. So it might be something that is supposed to be taken advantage of, but it has its risks, definitely.
Yeah, the clawback and the freeze is even more scarier for people buying the token, for sure.
I mean, I don't necessarily think that clawback or freeze are necessarily inherently bad tokenomic things. Just it depends on the use case. So like if you imagine a subscription service model, right? Like, and you want to sell your tokens like via a subscription, you want to claw back tokens every so often. I mean, you could do that via an NFT use case, but you can also do it via a clawback use case. I personally haven't found a freeze use case that I've really like. I know Planet Watch uses the freeze use case to lock licenses with their sensors when they find bad actors, which I think is probably a good idea for sensor technology. But yeah, I mean, it definitely just depends on the use case. But a lot of ASA creators definitely don't take enough time to consider whether or not they actually need freeze or clawback. And I think the community initially did not like freeze and clawback, so people probably just default to not having them. But like creators probably should consider those use case mechanics, because it is like you're saying, it is a good utility to have at the ASA level. It just definitely depends on what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, I have to agree with that as well. Like, it definitely has its use cases. Like, I say for like even games, like it has its use cases. That way, like, like even like gambling or sports betting or stuff like that. Like, there's use cases for it. But like I said, you just need to assess, like, is this right for this reason?
I think you also need to look at the manager of the ASA and say, do I trust them? Because if it's a single sig, then you basically need to think, okay, the person who owns this private key is going to do the right thing. I think ways to de-risk optics for the creators are make that at least a multi-sig with many people in the community, so that if a big change needs to be made, at least n people are agreeing to it. And then the best is to eventually have a smart contract control that, because with inner transactions, you can actually do the following construction where you have like a governance token, and then people can vote on a proposal. Like, let's say the proposal is, oh, we want to change the reserve account for the ASA. And then you can do an inner asset config transaction from the smart contract after the vote is approved. And so you've kind of now done the DAO is now sort of voting on these changes, which is that's something that we're eventually going to move to at AgoFi.
And John, what about the stable borrow rate that you guys are thinking about raising? Why do you think you need to raise it, and what would you raise it to?
Yeah, so we just put that into the chats today. We wanted to get some feedback from the community. I think it has to do with we think the vault will lead to very explosive growth in TVL within the DeFi ecosystem, and so people are going to leverage that to mint stable coins. And so stable obviously will be affected by this. And we just wanted to get people's thoughts on whether they think an interest rate increase would improve the peg maintenance, just because we don't want to limit stable's growth. And so keeping the rate low is helpful to lead to a lot of its creation, especially with the ANES rewards that basically pay you to do a lot of these actions. But we also want to make sure that the peg is being at least partially maintained. Like, it still structurally trades cheap versus a dollar, but this is not totally unexpected in an early ecosystem, especially given like the relatively low level of liquidity in Algorand DeFi. So I think it's kind of more like it's like a governance proposal that you might eventually see on the Albify DAO governance portal. And before we have the DAO, it's something that we want to propose to the public and solicit feedback.
So would you raise it to what, 5%?
So, yeah, I think it would be 5% would be, I think if the community was in support of it, that would roughly be the target.
So is the voting going to occur now, or will that be later through the portal?
So we're just soliciting feedback from the community before proceeding with anything. But it's kind of like a community-oriented discussion at this point, and more like proposal phase than actually voting.
If you were to raise it, under what market conditions or macro conditions do you think you would bring it back down again?
So that's a good question. I think by that time we'll hopefully have, like, for us, governance is like a Q3, Q4 target. So by that time we'd like for the DAO to be making those decisions, and I imagine the DAO will be looking at, is stable keeping its peg, because one thing is, as new people come into the ecosystem, if they see stable is trading far too cheap, that could have basically bad optics and limit its future growth. but I imagine it would be under a circumstance where it's kind of trading structurally cheap. There's fear about its future growth potential because of that. Not really, or less fear and more just a willingness to improve its chances. Because one thing is the governance token that we're going to issue will be entitled to deciding how the stable rate is increased or decreased and what the stable reserves are deployed into. So that's a lot of voting power. That's a lot of value that compounds under the bank token. So people will be, they're going to be wanting to leverage that ability, and that's one of the pieces that's going to give bank token its value. And in terms of like macro, so that doesn't really touch upon like what the market would be trading at. I don't really know what like economic conditions would result in this. I think that actually a sell-off in markets is in a lot of cases supportive of stable coins because people want to get into stable coins, which causes them to rally, and specifically for stable, people that are worried about getting liquidated are going to go lift stable to repay their loans. So negative macro conditions are actually, I think, beneficial to stable coins. It's the positive macro conditions where stable is getting printed against collateral that's growing in value and then sold to get into leverage positions that can cause its peg to deviate from a dollar. So I think that is an environment where we might see votes like this be proposed by the DAO.
So does that mean that because you guys are proposing to raise the rate, you expect the general market movements over the next few months till governance comes in to be a market condition in which people would want to borrow more stable coins rather than less?
Yeah, definitely. I think we're just going to see, there's 3 billion algos in governance, right? And so in theory, if all of that migrated into the vault and all of that stable, which it can, because there's 1 trillion stable, I think is the max that can be printed. So in theory, with a collateral factor of 80%, 3 billion algos, let's call it $1, we're talking about 2.6 billion stable in theory could be printed, and a lot of that's likely to be sold. There's not enough people on the other side to support the peg yet, and so I don't think that all of the algos, of course, are going to migrate, but if some material percentage does over the next 2 governance cycles, it's important that stable has the right dynamics for it to keep the peg. So yeah, it's definitely something that we wanted to get out to the community to discuss in anticipation of the governance TVL that we will accrue.
Right, so you're trying to get ahead of it if anything were to happen. Oyster, what do you think?
Well, one other option is to lower the interest rate on USDC, the borrow interest rate, to incentivize borrowing USDC to arbitrage the peg instead of raising the rates on stable. Or a combination. Don't raise the stable as high. Those are 2 levers to you have to model. You really have to model those, and obviously you won't ultimately know until you actually do it. Yeah, because the other problem is also the liquidity. USDC liquidity is still relatively tiny. We need to somehow attract much more USDC liquidity into Algorand. Actually in use in the dexes, and so that's my 2 cents on that.
Yeah, I think that it's a good point. Thinking about, and I would encourage you to kind of get involved in the Reddit chat, and we have some discussion on Discord as well. The lowering the USDC rate would, the upside is you'll probably see less sell pressure on stable because now USDC becomes more attractive to borrow. The other thing to weigh is the supply rate on USDC will be decreased. So while the ANIUS rewards are probably enough to attract suppliers for now, and we're likely going to continue having rewards from the foundation for the future. Unclear how that evolves over the coming years, but like I think there's appetite to kind of keep the liquidity growth that we've seen, but nothing has been like set in stone. So my one worry would be if the USDC rate becomes less attractive versus other ecosystems, we could see the USDC growth, sort of decrease. But maybe that's okay. Maybe we primarily want, a decentralized stablecoin in the ecosystem. The other thing is that the USDC rate in other competitor L1s like Solana is higher. Like if you go look at Solend or Banky, I think the borrow rate on USDC is around 8%. And they're also incentivizing, so it may be artificial, but I'd imagine we'll see people borrow USDC on Albify and then convert that into Solana-based USDC or Avalanche-based USDC to earn the spread. So
yeah, and
that's another thing to think about.
And that's where the bridges will help.
Yeah, for easy liquidity. There's actually one bridge I think coming live that I haven't seen too much chatter about, but have people discussed the Glitter Finance bridge?
We have, but does it work? I remember it not being the best product, a few months ago, to be fair, but is it? I haven't tested it.
I have no idea.
Is it a good bridge?
I've just seen it. I haven't used it, so I can't endorse it, but I was curious if people have been able to can speak more on it.
Yeah, I can invite the architect of the bridge, MG. He's well known in the Algorand ecosystem. Maybe you know him. Do you know MG, John?
Actually, no, I haven't.
Okay. Yeah, I will invite him to talk about it maybe next weekend if he can. That can be very interesting.
How long do the Aeneas rewards run for?
So right now we have them going until May 22nd, and then I think the belief is there will be some, we'll be in discussions to hopefully extend or work on another program. But so far, the liquidity growth has been, we've been satisfied with it, and we think that the program has done like what it is supposed to do, and we wouldn't want to threaten that the rewards turn off. So there's less interest in using it. Although you do notice that after rewards come off for a lot of protocols, not all of the liquidity migrates away. There is some like so-called sticky liquidity that will stay because the platform has been slightly de-risked and people want to use it just for the leverage and not necessarily for the rewards only. But we're going to do what we can to, certainly when our governance token is live, we're going to be doing liquidity mining programs. So there will be rewards coming from that. But we'd like to have algo rewards as well.
I'm also sure when AlgoMint finally gets done with their contracts and people can move over more than 1 Bitcoin a day, we'll see a lot more liquidity come over, a lot more Bitcoin and ETH, more heavy hitter liquidity coins, which I think will help the ecosystem altogether.
Yeah. Also, I'm glad you brought up AlgoMint, Cody, because they are having their token launch in 3 days, March 30th. The GoMint governance token is coming out. It's going to be on the Algofy DEX too, right? So, John, what are the talks between you and AlgoMint been like? And because there's a partnership between AlgoMint and Algofy, so can you? I don't know if anyone from AlgoMint is here, but anyone's welcome, to tell us about this token generation event. Does anyone know any details about it?
So we're permissionless. We're, Tinyman, ourselves, Pact, we're all sort of permissionless dexes, but we, since it's a large event for the ecosystem and definitely for themselves, the Algorand team kind of let us know that they were going to launch. So we've been in chats to help them understand our SDK, how to use the pools, because I imagine they're going to launch and then want to monitor, the prices in real time, the liquidity of the pools, and make sure that there aren't any snags during the actual launch. So we've been sort of providing them tech assistance, and I think definitely excited for the launch. I guess is that happening on? That's on the 30th.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So not on the governance day, but just before. So yeah, it'll be quite exciting. That's like Algorand's first. There's been some native. That's the first drop from like the initial ANES rewards protocol pool, and
Yeah,
it
the
might be the
first token from
largest
one of those
IDO.
companies.
Yeah, what's been the largest IDO to date in the Algorand ecosystem?
I feel like Opal.
Or yeah, or DFly as well too.
Yeah, yeah. You think it's
Yeah,
Opal, DFly, or Yieldly? You think it's got to be one of those three?
Opal had a pretty good last couple weeks with their launch on Huobi. That was quite supportive of their token.
Yo, I was wondering if any of you guys know anyone at Helium, or if anyone's building like Helium products on the Algorand ecosystem, because we're going to be launching a lot of IoT devices on Algorand, and I'm just trying to get connected with Helium because IoT devices need data networks. So if you guys have any connections there, that'd be great.
There are definitely connections between Algorand and Helium. I think the first person to hit up would be, if you can, Arul Murugan from Borderless, or anyone from Borderless, because they have a strong connection to Helium, and that'll
Awesome.
probably be a strong place for you to start.
Yeah, that's funny. We're already talking to Borderless, so I can just reach out back to them and see if they can hook us up.
Great.
Actually, I have another question for you, John. About the size of the community. Can you, with Algofy, have an idea about the number of unique users, like approximately, or is it difficult to do because of the wallets and accounts?
Yeah, it's difficult to know the actual true number of users, but in terms of wallets, I think it's been a while since we checked actually. It's been over a month, but I think the number of unique wallets with some material amount of liquidity in them, so not like a penny, but like I think at least $5 or $10, is somewhere around 10,000 users. When we last checked, got to be more now, and I think with the vault we'll see that grow as well. But something like that. That's a good question though. I think I might do a recalc today. That's with the indexer node. It's actually not too hard to calculate this.
Yeah, I was wondering because the community, even though the tools and the DeFi, everything is exploding, the community is still pretty small, like 10, 20,000 users. I don't know. Anybody has an estimate about the size of our ecosystem users, real users?
You mean like an aggregate of wallets that have interacted with the different DeFi apps?
Yeah, that would be a great number, like if we could have that. But like my question, I guess, is did we breach the 20,000 or are we still under? Because the followers on Twitter, like it's hard to find a good metrics, and if anybody has a good metrics to try to size the community, that would be wonderful.
I think one of the useful metrics, Fred, didn't you make a post recently that was talking about the quantity of wallets and the amount of algo that they're holding? Maybe I'm wrong.
There's actually quite a few different explorers. I've kind of lost track of them over the past couple of years, but trying to go through some of my bookmarks. App.intotheblock.com. If you go to their Algorand view, there's a lot of really good data there. I wouldn't trust their figures on whether or not of how many accounts are in the black or red on their value, because they don't transitively follow the transaction. So basically they'll just be look at account, like if someone creates a new account at a certain date, they'll just assume that's the first purchase of their algo. So they'll show, like, more, particularly recently, more people being in the red. But in terms of like ownership stats, concentration, account holdings, like number of whales, number of investors, things like that. They have some pretty good data. So it's app.intotheblock.com/coin/ all uppercase algo.
Yeah, there's also another really insanely powerful like analytics tool that's coming out. It's called BlockRank.
Yep.
And it's made by my friend Davis. And what he's done is he's turned the whole Algorand network into a graph visualization tool, which means that every single Algorand wallet becomes a node that he and his team can connect all of the nodes to other nodes based on filters. So if you can imagine like looking at your own ASA, and he has demos of this if you want to go to BlockRank and figure it out. But like you can look at your whole ASA ecosystem on the graph, and you can start to filter it down by like certain things. Like I only want to look at the wallets that have above 100,000 units. You can do that. They also are starting to add in automated airdrop abuse detection. So if you imagine observing these nodes, you can start to visualize and generate features that can identify scammers. And they're starting to develop machine learning products and automated abuse detection software. And they're right now the tool is going to be launched probably like next week, and it's in web format, but they're going to start to convert it into an API. So if you imagine you can set up like all these filters and stuff, and then you want to like airdrop tokens out through like, a pure stake type API, those filters will be built into the API. So you will always know that you're like not sending bad wallet addresses and stuff. It'll just be automatically blocked with like a 404 error. So yeah, interesting stuff over there too.
Can you repeat the name, please? Was it Algo Ballet?
It was BlockRank.
Oh, okay.
And it's block-rank, by the way.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I've seen this Algo Ballet too. It's kind of the same graph thing with all the Algo wallets linked to the assets and the contracts they interact with. Algo Ballet, I don't know who did that, but that's I have it actually on my phone. It's pretty interesting. Just put the address and you can track the address.
Yeah, there's another pretty good resource that I just shared on a tweet, and I'm gonna try to share into the little tweet whatever space here on the Twitter Spaces. But it's an app called appintotheblock.com. So it's app.intotheblock.com. I'm gonna try to share the link here.
That's what Patrick told us about, right?
Yeah, that's the one I just mentioned. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I just posted the link. I'm gonna try to share it here.
I got a question for the technical heads up here on the panel right now. A lot of the wallets that we may have seen been created in the past few months, you may have seen, if you're listening, you may have seen Algorand wallets going straight vertical. But really, a lot of these are created through smart contracts and for specific companies. I'm wondering if in the future it's possible to have zero knowledge capabilities on Algorand where like my wallet will generate a new private wallet to interact with different protocols like at will, and it'll be a knowledgeless system, so no one will be able to come back to my original wallet. I'm bringing this up because of the Coinbase news that came out this week, where they are going to start asking their users to provide the data of the wallets that they will send crypto to, name and address. So will zero knowledge solutions be available on Algorand at any time?
I think that news from Coinbase was pertaining to Canada, wasn't it? But
it was, but we may have some Canadian people in here, and it's right in America's backyard, and it's a step in the wrong direction for a lot of crypto people.
There's no way to, you can always see the connections between wallets. So even if you are going to interact with an application and you make a new wallet, or you were to rekey a wallet back to your wallet, that gives another indicator that you are the one who's owning or managing those funds. I think the only real solution, if you wanted to anonymize the source of funds, would be to use some kind of a mixer like Tornado Cash. But there's lots of people who can. There was a big testimony. I think Elizabeth Warren was asking a lot of questions, and these folks are saying, no, we can trace funds anywhere. We can trace them through a mixer.
the problem with mixers is you can very easily find yourself on a watch list. So basically, just even touching a mixer, you could basically put your address on a block list. So basically, doing nothing wrong. The fact that you use a mixer is a red flag for exchanges and/or government agencies. But as far as like the withdrawal requirements for Coinbase, like the reality is, I think they already know. It's just being forced on them by legislators. Basically, as soon as you touch any exchange anywhere, all that's there. So Chainalysis, all that, they have like direct feeds, direct partnerships with the exchanges. So any touch of a money handler, any kind of fiat in or out, then all that has to be KYC known. And so, short of actual true privacy chains, you've got to be really, really, you basically can never touch any centralized on or off ramp ever. You basically could only exchange for people who exchanged only in crypto. But,
unless you're using like something like Monero. Monero is
right. Yeah. If you had to,
by
that's what I'm
default.
saying. You have to use a true privacy chain. But then also there's cases, things like Zcash. It's been proven that people have been able to track its transactions. There's all kinds of just tricky things that can happen, or that can be leaked inadvertently, that end up exposing you. And all you ever have to do is mess up like once ever, potentially, and then you basically you pulled the thread, and then now you have a nice sweater and you pulled out one little thread and it's all gone. And so it's interesting. I want to see, Silvio's kind of hinted at security stuff. He helped invent a lot of the key principles. But the one time he talked about it, at least for Algorand, was he didn't kind of want to touch it early on because it kind of ends up being like a lightning rod, particularly for regulators. If you have, before everything's really entrenched and people feel comfortable with it, you don't have all the FUD about criminal elements and things like that. If you make it private too soon, then I think it would really freak out and scare the regulators. But I think maybe once it's really entrenched, then they can kind of bring in privacy elements. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw, but Silvio spoke at the blockchain conference in Australia this past week, and I got the opportunity to ask him a question. I asked him what was his opinion on creating a privacy layer on Algorand, and he actually replied saying, of course, he didn't give any alpha or anything too specific, but he said that Algorand has been working with regulators to create some privacy features for the Algorand blockchain. And I thought that was surprising because at least that was the first time that I personally saw him talking, so openly about this, that he sees this as a core feature that needs to be implemented on Algorand in the future. So that was interesting. If you wanted to try to shout.
Yeah, I saw that, but it's like everyone is like, "What? Like, tell us more." It's like
exactly.
it was this little nugget that was just thrown out there. It was like everyone's like, "Wait, what?" I would love to know more.
Yeah, we got to keep pushing. Try to get some more answers from the man.
Yeah,
not making any. Go ahead. Oh, just to say, not making any political statements here, but just shared for anyone's interest this video of the discussion about mixers and tracing funds on blockchain. And if you look, there's reports from the intelligence agencies when there's been exchange hacks and they track the coins wherever they're going. They'll find it. Patrick, like you mentioned, everything can be traced. There's no such thing as anonymity.
Well, that was pretty made obvious with those Bitfinex hackers, which John there dodged a bullet because he did you propose to Alien Liechtenstein for funding?
Yeah, we literally almost got a check from them, which is pretty funny. Like, I spoke to them. It was a brief meeting, and I thought they were very strange, and then we didn't take their money. But it was funny. They wanted to invest. I mean, I guess in retrospect that makes sense, but they were very insistent on investing in crypto and not fiat, which that's not that strange. A lot of crypto investors pay USDC, but I think they wanted to do like either Bitcoin or ETH, which was a bit funny because obviously there's like this delta risk.
Sense though that the creator of zero knowledge proofs would be working on some zero knowledge solution, because I think Silvio does value privacy as a core tenet of finance, but would this have to be done on a co-chain and maybe couldn't be added to the main chain? Does anyone know about that?
What was the question? Sorry.
No, the question was
I was
trying to toss that.
Discord.
I was trying to toss that out to you or Chris or Fred because or Algod, but yeah, the question was, would the privacy layer have to be done on a co-chain, an Algorand co-chain, or would it be possible to add to the main layer? And it's interesting, Fred, that he said that they were working with regulators. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think like both. I mean, realistically, for true privacy, it would need to be part of the fundamental protocol. So there'd be full-on consensus change of the protocol. But I know there will already be some anonymity. I mean, this is going back probably almost a year now when Sylvia was talking about the like token bridges, basically co-chain transfers from co-chains to mainnet, that the co-chain is basically a completely independent network. So the accounts on that network are really kind of unknown to the mainnet, as well as the assets in a sense. So it's really kind of, that bridge is already kind of an anonymizing layer. And so upon coming to mainnet, that would, as I understand it, already be kind of shielded. So it'd be just like a new transaction on mainnet, but you wouldn't necessarily be able to track that back, as I understand it. It would be like a new thing. It would be like almost like a state-proof transfer with like a generated participation key of sorts representing that network. But we'll see. So that might be what he's kind of even referring to, is just as a part of those transfers that you already do have some anonymity, because the transfer is happening as a part of like a trust key that's being generated, as opposed to account A is transferring to account B. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So the trust key is kind of like a neutral layer that doesn't hold all the information about where the assets were before.
I think it's more like, that this is the state of the entire chain as a state proof. And this is a transfer, and, trust me, bro, like, all these balances are correct. But I mean, this is like very far level, like conjecture. Like, I don't know the details, but that's
Gotcha.
That's what it sounds like.
Well, it definitely seems like an opportunity, even for an independent builder, to potentially build like a privacy fork or a privacy co-chain on Algorand. Maybe would get you in hot water with regulators, but definitely seems like an opportunity.
Yeah, I think fundamentally the concept is not that much different from a mixer. If you're using a co-chain to bridge some assets and then bring them back, and if you have a smart contract that with a web UI that creates an address for you and then allows you to slowly move those funds into that account, I think the concept, it's effectively just a mixer. Put a video up there.
Evo wants to send someone to jail.
Listen, I'm giving billion-dollar ideas here, as long as someone's willing to take the risk. Okay.
Yeah, sure. I think I've read in many CBDC's papers that the privacy below $300 or something like that, or $500, is a requirement for many countries to protect citizens to have their own privacy of transactions below a certain amount. So I guess maybe we're gonna have first this privacy feature added, then a full CBDC, like retail CBDC, I guess, but just conjecturing right now. Do we have questions from the audience? Like, we haven't been listening much from the audience. Please jump in. Bring any subject or question or anything. That would be great before we end this call.
I think one thing, because I actually got to hop off, but just wanted to say if anybody has any questions on the Albify Vault launching on Thursday at 12 p.m. Eastern Time, definitely hop into the Albify Discord, Telegram, or Reddit. You could also reach out to Owen or myself at founders@algify.org. And we want to try to create the best docs and tutorials for people to understand how to use this. And I think we're also going to have a Twitter Spaces this week to kind of discuss Algorand governance, how it's going to evolve moving forward, and how you can use the Albify Vault to participate in DeFi and governance. So definitely going to be a exciting, hectic week, but looking forward to seeing everybody. I guess take advantage of these new products.
Yeah, I'm excited for the Algo Vaults thing. I think you guys did a great job releasing that. So great job, John.
Thanks. All right, everyone. Take care.
See you, John. Thanks. So yeah, it could be a big week. Could see crazy dynamics with the Algo TVL, Guard, and AlgoFi coming out. And yeah, just great call today. Really exciting to hear about the Reach Summit as well and hear from Shrina. So does anyone have, Fred, do you want to say something?
Yeah, I just got a final question for Patrick, if he doesn't mind, and then you guys can feel free to remove me from the speaker board if you need to make room for more questions from the community. But just Patrick, can you give us an update on what happened in NF domains in the last week or two, and where we headed next, and if there's anything that you can share?
Well, we're live. We've been on betanet for a little bit now. I originally went to betanet because we use AVM 1.1, Teal 6, and require it. And then pretty quickly put it on testnet once testnet had it. More just because our integrators, a lot of them don't really run multiple copies of their infra. I'm finding that quite a few of them don't even run on testnet, which I hadn't anticipated up front. But a lot of these kind of more user-facing sites really are just only on mainnet. So that's kind of an interesting challenge unto itself. But yeah, I mean we're kind of like private beta of sorts. Mostly just running there for integrators to start hearing it as we continue to finalize the 1.0 features. But if people come to our Discord and want to play, we're pretty free on giving people links to the testnet to play with. Yeah, I mean the features are kind of coming pretty fast and furious. There isn't too much to add before I would kind of say it's MVP level. And there's just still a lot to do, but people I think have used it. It's really slick. I'm really excited for people to see it because it's pretty cool. The stuff that's been added recently is something that's fundamental. It's always been there, required day one, is being able to link multiple accounts to an NFT. Because the ownership of an NFT is independent from what the NFT can point to. Because you might have NFT artists, who might have 10 Algorand accounts for their creations. They could link all 10 of those accounts to their NFT, and then marketplaces be able to do a reverse lookup and see that yes, this Corvus or this Goanna or you name it was actually created by that artist, and it, and then that NFT, the artist would be able to put verified information as well to link to their Twitter, and you would know that their Twitter that is their Twitter handle and that we verified that. So I'm working on Twitter verification today, actually. And maybe hopefully we'll get that rolled out today or tomorrow. But yeah, it's cruise along. I know some of the people here have played with it, but yeah. So hop on our Discord, give us some feedback.
Just one quick note. Do you know that next month we have the Paris Blockchain Week Summit? Silvio will be talking, I think. So if anybody is coming, please reach out to me. We're already organizing some events on the sites. So feel free to just DM me and I will be there with Thomas, with Patrick, with many French ambassadors, Alexander, and yeah.
All right, guys, I'm heading out too. Please, join me for the Humble launch tomorrow. Do some swapping, give some feedback.
Yeah, congrats.
Yes, Humble tomorrow. Let's go. Such a hype day.
Looking forward to it.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, I got some algo ready for you, Chris. I'm excited to use it, man.
Me too. Honestly, I've been actually waiting to buy a. I've been wanting to buy a lot of ASAs, but I'm like, I'm just gonna wait a little bit longer. I mean, I can't wait until I mean, it's gonna be fun.
Just remember, everyone, because governance is locking soon, so it's good timing, Chris. But just save some algo for NFTs. I'm just
if
saying.
you if you buy Reach tokens or Humble Swap tokens on testnet, you are eligible for the airdrop.
That's enough out of you. False information. False information.
Sir, when airdrop?
But there should be, I would say everyone definitely look forward this week to the videos coming out from the Reach Summit. There'll be more documentation coming. The Ascent program is ongoing. This will be the second week. It's really great. Maybe JP can drop in next week and have some content to share with everyone, and videos from Algorand, South by Southwest. Those presentation videos should also be up soon.
And all you developers out there, you 100% should watch Jay program an entire RSVP application live from scratch without previous preparation. It's pretty awesome. He did it in under 30 minutes
I was going to say that's probably like a 5-minute task for him, right?
But yeah, I mean, come on, Chris, isn't it disingenuous to say, with Jay, that there's no previous preparation? I mean,
except the past 25 years of his life.
Right.
All right, fair enough.
I just shared that link up again for everyone, and we had Russ Festino there at the Reach Summit. That was awesome. Russ is amazing. The Algorand developer portal is an award-winning developer portal. I don't know if everyone knows that, but he also did developer office hours with Headline, and Headline has more open source code available than anyone in the ecosystem right now. So I check out that office hours. Very cool stuff. Makes it easy for people to build. And we have the Algorand Centers of Excellence. I talked with them a little bit more about the open courseware that's coming, and that's going to be phenomenal. So we had University of Florida students at the Reach Summit, so you can actually start to see universities sending their students to these events to learn. Very powerful. Open courseware will be a game changer.
Yeah, really excited to see the students that get into Algorand and 3-4 years down the line what they end up building. That's a really exciting proposition. Thanks for that.
Yeah, the funny thing is that we're doing something similar with Georgia Tech. They have a huge wildlife conservation. They're trying to merge computer science, wildlife biologists, and I can't remember the last one, but 3 types of industries into one type of study. And I'm working with a couple of researchers at Georgia Tech to develop a course and event at their school. But yeah, it's very cool to get younger people interested in developing on Algorand, because it is actually pretty easy to mint with all these different tools, and like mint on the testnet and send some stuff around, and with all the tools that are being developed by Headline and other Reach in general, like it's pretty much like a no code solution, so that's gonna make it a lot easier to develop and teach people how to code as well. So yeah, but from a BirdBot perspective, we have our machine learning beta software coming out. So I don't know if any of you guys really know about what we're doing at BirdBot, but we're developing machine learning software that integrates with the Algorand blockchain. And it's starting with birds, but it can essentially adapt into anything. And it's the same exact technology that Tesla and SpaceX use. It's called TensorFlow. And we integrate that into our own camera sensors. And we're launching our beta software relatively soon, within the next couple weeks. So yeah, guys, look out for that. But yeah, I appreciate you guys having me on and hearing all about what you guys are working on.
Thank you, Tyler.
You too, yeah. Would love
yeah,
to
I
hear.
think we should. Yeah, we would love to hear more about the project. That sounds very interesting. Please join again next weekend. We can talk about it more. I didn't know
Sorry
you
we
were
didn't
the
get to
creator.
BirdBot, but would love to hear more about that, like Bilal said.
Yeah, that would be great. Thanks.
Well, Bilal, what do you think? Good call?
Oh, awesome. Yeah, much better than last week, I would say.
You back in France now?
Good stuff.
Yeah, I'm back home. Yeah, I'm sorry. Last week I was so disconnected in Morocco. Like now it's much better here. Good
Very
to
good to
hear
hear that.
everybody here. And thank you so much, my friends. It's awesome as usual. And I can't wait to see how it goes with AgoFi, like what we all going to do. We will all have the proofs. That will be fun. I think I'm going to use it and see how it goes. Hopefully nothing happens. Okay,
Right.
thank you so much. Yeah.
And I think you could put a little bit in Algify, a little bit in Guard, and keep most of it in the normal portal. There's no it's not like a one-stop shop, or like you have to put everything in one basket.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. But it's very exciting actually. I think I'm gonna try Algofy because just of the proof, like how they released everything in a very nice setup, etc. Guard, I haven't seen much, but
Right.
I'm excited to see what they've done.
Yeah, they're coming out. They're coming out in a few days, and it's going to be interesting to see how that launch goes, for sure.
Yeah, I'm sure next weekend we will talk about it. Sorry, Algot.
No, just remember to keep enough leverage on the side to buy the dip.
Or
or I don't know how to do that. I never do. I'm just like that's something I need to learn. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you could keep collateral on the side. Like if you use Algofy, you can supply 100 algo and commit 50 and keep 50, or you could supply all 100, borrow algo against your position, and swap that algo into USDC and basically hedge your position short. So if the price of algo goes up during governance, you're fine, but if it goes down, you have extra money that you made from that. So I don't know, just some strategies.
Wow, that sounds pretty smart. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because if you put your whole bag into governance on January 1st, you lost half of your value. We all did. So it is what it is. But in the future, it's pretty exciting to be able to borrow against that and basically have a hedge against your staking position. So I think that's a pretty cool option.
Yeah, definitely.
If anyone connects with the guys from Algofy again, it'd be interesting to see if there is a way to make a community incentive where people can provide funds that will help maintain the peg. Other than just having deep liquidity in the pools, what can we do to actually help maintain the peg with other stablecoins?
I think what they're going to have to do is partner with other stablecoins, XBacked, Guard, Relio USD, whatever other stablecoins come out. I think all the stablecoins could benefit by playing nice together. It'll keep all their pegs more solid. But I guess that those deals will kind of have to be worked out on the side. So maybe I'll get busy on one of those deals.
Awesome. Yeah, we need that. We need a great stablecoin for the ecosystem. A few good ones, actually. Yeah. Thank you so much, my friends. Always good to hear from everybody, and talk to you next weekend with more news about the governance and DeFi ecosystem. Bye.
Salah.
Yes,
Thank
thank you
you
all for
so much.
coming.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank
Talk
you.
soon.
Bye. Thank you.